Welcome back. Wow. Listen, y'all, we ain't been on an audio recording in almost 10 months. That's crazy. But welcome back. You are listening to the audio studio version of the almost famous edition of the MackTruck podcast, presented to you now by the Sports Avengers Sports Network. My name is Mackenzie Brooks, aka the MackTruck, aka your worst nightmare, just like the theme song says, the Princess of Pain. We're still here at the end of 2025, or getting close to it, talking nothing but sports, controversies, dramas, all the things. Got a little bit of a short docket here. If you were on with us live on the airwaves, we just got done doing the visual version. Now we're here back in studio doing the audio version for you lovely folks here. And thank you for joining us. Docket today, going to be kind of shorter, on the shorter side. You know, sometimes we like to mix it up. College football recap, boxing news and notes, NFL news and notes, including the indictment details of the Antonio Brown attempted murder trial. Going to do some UFC 322 recap, as well as an unfortunate tribute to now late college football coach and Coach John Beam of the ever-coveted docuseries on Netflix, Last Chance U. I'm going to get into that. This first portion of the show is brought to you by none other than In My Bag Apparel and Customs by Evan Thunder Bradfield. For everything in the latest fashions of hip-hop, world culture, and all things clothing, designs, and apparel, make sure you hit up Evan Thunder Bradfield on bigcartel.com, as well as the Whatnot app and the TikTok shop. In My Bag is also the official merchandiser and sponsor of the MackTruck podcast. Listen, y'all, it's been a long 2025, full of pugilistic sports, super fights, all kinds of things. But we finally have a very formidable, I don't even think we can call it a super fight. This is more or less a heavyweight matchup. For those of you who have been paying attention in the world of boxing, world-renowned now boxer, entertainment artist, whatever you want to revere him as, Mr. Problem Child himself, Jake Paul, who has fought some of the greats in terms of Mike Tyson, Ben Askren, Tommy Fury, now will fight one of the best heavyweight boxers to ever do it, and former heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua, on December 16th of this year in Miami, Florida. This fight was originally scheduled for Gervonta Tank Davis, and Jake Paul in a catchweight bout, but unfortunately, because Tank Davis has now been dealing with some rehashings of domestic violence allegations from former partner Courtney Russell. She filed a civil suit in the Miami-Dade County area, accusing the lightweight boxer of battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, intentional infiltration of emotional distress as well. Tank Davis was, we can't say indicted, but he was taken off of the Jake Paul card on the 14th of this month. Again, it was supposed to be at the Casilla Center in Florida, but was canceled amid the allegations of the domestic violence case. Now, again, this fight was also supposed to be on Netflix, just like all the other ones Jake Paul have been on Netflix. The Mike Tyson fight was on Netflix. The Tommy Fury fight was on Netflix. So Jake Paul and MVP Promotions, as well as Netflix, have now slated this fight for December 16th against heavyweight former champion Anthony Joshua. I can't wait to watch this fight. I think Jake Paul is a tremendous boxer. Just like I've said before, I've not always been a fan of his antics. I've not always been a fan of how he has gotten his rise to boxing. He is a good boxer, though. He's already shown that he can box somebody a little bit lighter weight than him. Now he's going to fight somebody who's a little bit taller than him, and who's done it in terms of being in the heavyweight division, frankly. And if it were me, I put my money on the fact that Anthony Joshua was probably going to come out with the win with this. But if Jake Paul fights a good fight, I don't see why he doesn't put his name into the heavyweight realm of boxing, or really the pro circuit is really where I'm trying to go with this. get yourself into the pro circuit of boxing. Like, actually put yourself out there as a contender. I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. I normally do. And that's fine. But if Jake Paul fights a good fight against Anthony Joshua, I don't see how other heavyweights or other weights in general on the heavier side don't try to get him on a big pay-per-view. But he also has his own promotion that has actually, ironically enough, done so much for women's boxing. So I can absolutely see why he wouldn't necessarily want to hop on board with another promotion that's not going to include a lot of women's fights. Anybody that's seen any of these MVP promotion fights under Jake Paul promotion companies, every single card that they have had that that one of the Paul brothers has headlined as a fully sanctioned women's title match as the co-main event. The last couple ones have been Amanda Serrano. And I am just here for it. Another couple ones had Alicia Baumgartner. I love me some Alicia Baumgartner. I love me some Amanda Serrano. And the things that MVP Promotions is doing for women's boxing is ridiculous. And again, for those of you who've been paying attention to the boxing news and everything like that, Clarissa Shields has also been targeted as far as trying to bring her onto the MVP Promotions sports promotions, but unfortunately for MVP, Clarissa Shields just signed a 2-year, $8 million contract with just about a $3 million signing bonus up front with Salida Promotions and Win Records as well. And I'm excited because that means more Clarissa Shields, more women's boxing, more of all the things we love to see when it comes to the growth of boxing itself. And that also means Clarissa Shields is no longer fighting MMA. Kind of bummed out about it, but she's definitely one of the most decorated and most successful boxers, not just man, not just woman, but boxers on planet Earth. Hails from right here up in Michigan, outside of Flint. I can't wait. I can't wait for this Jake Paul card. I can't wait to see Clarissa Shields make her return back to the ring in early 2026. But we're going to keep moving here on the MackTruck podcast. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for joining me back in studio here. Our docket is a little bit short, but lots of details. As far as the Clarissa Shields record, in terms of record deal, I should say. Again, more details. So again, you can find all this on ESPN.com. Pretty much anywhere you get your sporting news, AP Sports News, CBS Sports, Bleacher Report, that type of thing. Again, Clarissa Shields signed a 2-year deal worth just a minimum of $8 million with Salida Promotions and Win Records. $3 million signing bonus upfront, mind you. That is an upfront signing bonus. So as soon as she signed all the dotted line, $3 million was hitting her bank account. Again, looking to return early 2026. Shields will focus on boxing and has right now ended her career competing in mixed martial arts. For those of you who did not know, she was also doubling as an MMA fighter and a boxer, fighting out of the Jackson Wink MMA school. They've produced the likes of Holly Holm. They've produced the likes of the one John Jones. So lots of good stuff over there. I'm coming out of Clarissa Shields' camp in boxing. We're going to move on into the next topic here on the MackTruck podcast. This topic is brought to you by Sports Avengers, the Sports Avengers Sports Network, via Facebook, StreamYard, TikTok, and anywhere else you get your audio and viewing streaming pleasure. And big shout out to the Playbook podcast with Prescott Kelly for bringing us aboard the ship that is the Sports Avengers. Make sure you're following, liking, sharing, and subscribing. Everything on Sports Avengers, including the now coveted edition of the MackTruck podcast. Moving on. Listen, I am here for this. I'm here for this recap for 322 UFC. Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. And if you weren't impressed with this fight card, I don't know what on earth you was watching, to tell you the damn truth. We're just going to start it out here with the featured event fight on the early prelims. Bo Nickel versus Adolfo Vieira in the middleweight division. Now, before we get into this, for those of you who don't know, Bo Nickel has been in the UFC for a while now. Came into this fight 7-1, had one loss, and got taken off of the pay-per-view. Bo Nickel was supposed to fight on this pay-per-view card for UFC 322. Unfortunately, got a little bit of a demotion. I still, to this day, have no idea why. But obviously, Dana White and the the big staff over there at the UFC get paid the big bucks to do these types of things, and some of us are trying, to get to that point. Either way, Bo Nickel gets a demotion and proves to Dana White in the UFC why that was a terrible idea. Bo Nickel is now 8-1-0. He knocks off Rodolfo Vieto by pure head kick, knockout in round 2, 2 minutes and 24 seconds into round 2. TKO, KO in the middleweight division. And if you watched any of these highlights, if you've seen any of these highlights, the head kick was nasty, and the setup for it was even scarier. Rodolfo Vieira, who's now 11-4-0, one of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners on planet Earth, was being stuffed in terms of his takedowns. Bo Nickel, by the early parts of round 2, at 100% takedown defense anytime Rodolfo Vieira was shooting for him. And it's nuts to me to even sit there and think about. Either way, Bo Nickel's back on top, 8-1-0 over Rodolfo Vieira via head kick. Again, 2 minutes, 22 seconds into the second round. Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint-Denis in the lightweight division. Beneil Dariush is now 23-7-1. Benoit Saint-Denis is now 16-3-0. Beneil Dariush ends up losing this fight to a technical knockout due to punches from Benoit Saint-Denis, the Frenchman himself. And let me just say this. First round, 16 seconds. Just throw that out there. 16 seconds in the first round, Benoit Saint-Denis blows the doors off of Beneil Dariush, which is nuts to me because Beneil Dariush is a dog. Beneil Dariush is a dog, and it's nuts to even think about. I love it. You love it. You don't love to see somebody get knocked out, but it's part of sport. It's part of the sport. I hate to even say it like that. And unfortunately, for this next individual that we're going over, it's also something that he has struggled with. Former welterweight champion Leon Rocky Edwards loses this fight to now up-and-comer Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates is now 23-7-0. Leon Rocky Edwards is now 22-6-0. Carlos Prates gets the job done, TKO due to punches, 1 minute and 28 seconds into round number 2. And I kind of expressed my disdain for some of the actions by Carlos Prates in the visual version of the show earlier. You get paid millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight. Obviously, the entertainment portion of sports is just that, the entertainment portion, but don't be disrespectful, okay? And what I mean by that is Leon Edwards took the back of Carlos Prates, basically was hanging on to him, trying to, punch him in the face, do some type of damage, and Carlos Prates was grabbing his wrist and just standing there with a blank stare on his face as if Leon Edwards has never knocked anybody out before, as if Leon Edwards has never obtained the welterweight title. Listen, Prates, you've never held the welterweight title in the UFC. Don't be disrespectful. Yes, you beat him, but you ain't beaten nobody else yet. That drives me absolutely nuts. Be humble, because you could be the next one to be knocked out. And that goes for anybody. Like, fight the fight. Obviously, if he's not doing any damage, that's one thing, but don't make it bluntly obvious because we're all watching the same damn thing. Do better. Do better. Like, the memes I keep seeing of Prates just sitting there is just, disgusting to me. And maybe because I'm old school as hell, but make it look like you have competition because both of y'all trained for this fight. Both of y'all had to cut weight and a lot of weight because both of y'all don't actually walk at the welterweight size. Okay? Don't do that. You gotta earn your keep. You knocked out one of the former welterweight champions, but you're not a champion yet. So keep that in mind while you walk around here with your head held high like that. It drives me absolutely nuts. Either way, moving on into the next welterweight bout here on the UFC 322 recap of Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev here on the MackTruck podcast. Sean Brady drops this one to Michael Morales. Michael Morales is now still undefeated at 19-0. Sean Brady is now 18-2-0. TKO due to punches again in favor of Michael Morales. Round 1, 3 minutes and 27 seconds into it. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I think Sean Brady could have beat Michael Morales. Michael Morales is a very good fighter. Michael Morales has had very little scuffle, has not been rocked or really tested much since he got into the UFC, and has just been on a fucking tear. I'm just telling you that right now. He's been on a tear. I'll tell you this though. Sean Brady also in his own right has literally created and recreated himself as a fighter, as a UFC fighter, as kind of a household name. I think Sean Brady bounces back from this. I don't know how. I don't know what that looks like for him in his camp, but I think he makes a comeback and starts to rebuild that resume in the welterweight. Or he maybe jumps up to 205 and tests those waters. I don't know if dropping down a weight class for Sean Brady is something feasible either, but I could totally see him going up, hitting that light heavyweight division, because some of these smaller guys out here have the power. Just have the power. It's crazy. It's crazy to even think about. Having the power at some of these smaller sizes in terms of just height difference alone is nuts to me. But that's what we love pugilistic and combative sports for. Moving on into the co-main event here on the recap for UFC 322. Valentina Shevchenko versus Zhang Weili in the co-main event for the UFC women's flyweight title. Valentina Shevchenko, the Bullet, retains her women's flyweight division title. She is now 26-4-1. Beats Zhang Weili, the former women's strawweight champion, who is now 26-4-0. Valentina Bullet Shevchenko gets the unanimous decision across the board, 50-45 3 times over. And now the question lies, does Zhang Weili stay in this weight class, or does she drop back down to the strawweight division to try to reclaim her dominance there? I said earlier on the live show that I think Zhang Weili should stay up in the flyweight division, build that resume, and get herself another crack at the title. But I'll tell you this, there's a lot of up-and-coming fighters in different divisions. So if she's going to look to try to go back to strawweight, she's got to make a decision, because Amanda Nunes is coming out of retirement to try to get her bantamweight title back. Kayla Harrison, rather, who is the women's bantamweight champion, is not about to let Amanda Nunes try to come back up in here. And I feel like that's going to be the exact same for the strawweight champion. I don't think the strawweight champion is going to come back and just try, think that Zhang Weili is about to take her belt. I think it's going to happen, but I don't think that's the mindset that's going to be there. I mean, we have a lot of people coming out of retirement. Hell, Ronda Rousey might be coming out of retirement. I promise you, if the day that happens, I think I'm about to cry. Like, I'm being so serious. It is going to be nuts if and when Ronda Rousey comes back out of retirement to try to get another crack, the love of the sport of MMA, and be competitive again. I will cry. The childhood girl, the little teenage, the college kid will cry. I promise you that. Either way, moving on into the next fight here, the main event for UFC Recap 322. Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. The Aussie could not get it done, could not retain the belt. Jack Della Maddalena is now 18-3-0. Islam Makhachev is now 28-1-0. Unanimous decision 45-50 3 times over in favor of Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev is now the 11th two-division champion in the UFC, joining the likes of Conor McGregor, Amanda Nunes, John Jones, George St. Pierre, Daniel Cormier, Henry Cejudo, BJ Penn, Ilya Topuria, Randy Couture, and Poatan, Mr. Alex Pereira. So now the question lies, is Islam Makhachev better than his brethren in Khabib the Eagle Nurmagomedov? And I'm not really sure we can have this debate right now. What I will say, though, is Islam now has more title defenses, or title tensions, rather, than Khabib Nurmagomedov. Islam Makhachev is now two-division UFC champion, where Khabib was the most dominant lightweight in the lightweight division during his reign. I think if Khabib were still fighting, I think that's still a thing. I think Khabib is still a lightweight champion, to be honest with you. I think that's a thing. But I'm not quite sure if I'm personally ready to say that Islam Makhachev is the better of the two. But we'll see. But right now, he's got a strong argument, like I said, at 28-1-0, and now the 11th multi-division champion is nuts in the best way possible, mind you. It's nuts in the best way possible. And, we love to see it. So listen, big shout out to all the fighters in this card and all the cards from 2025. It's crazy to think that we've had so many good fight cards, so many good fights in 2025. And the fact that 2025 is almost over, y'all, like Thanksgiving is in really a week or just a little over a week, 9 days, 8.5 days. It's nuts all out here to think about. I love it. You love it. That's why we're here talking sports. This next portion of the show is brought to you by none other than True Studios, 8421 Club, Iowa Suite N. The Beard and Barber Stylings of Gary Duke Williams, Duke the Truth. If you need a beard lineup, a normal lineup, a fresh cut or something just to spruce yourself up for the weekend, make sure you're hitting up Gary Duke Williams on Booksy.com, Facebook.com, or a simple Facebook message and tell him the MackTruck sent you. Truth Studios is the official hair technician of the MackTruck podcast. It's college football time, y'all. It's college football time. We got a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, for my Iowa Hawkeyes, the proverbial 8-4 season seems to be more and more realistic with the unfortunateness that they lost to fucking the USC Trojans this past weekend. And frankly, I'm sick of it. I'm over it. I'm sick of watching the Iowa Hawkeyes do this proverbially every year. We now have a quarterback who has proven himself throughout the entire season, had a rocky first couple games, was battling the injury, was out for a game, had one loss up until Indiana came on homecoming. Indiana beat Iowa by 5 points. In week 2, Iowa State beats Iowa by 2 points. That's 7 points right there. Then we lose to Oregon by 2 points. That's 9 points. And then we lose by 5 this past weekend in California, which totals the 4 losses to less than 20 points on the season losing. It's quite infuriating to watch, frankly. Iowa now is on an 0-12 record of not beating ranked teams. And to be honest, we can't play the shoulda, woulda, coulda game, but absolutely should have beat Indiana, absolutely should have beat Oregon, and absolutely should have beat USC. There's no reason why we couldn't have beat those teams outside of the fact that Iowa just doesn't know how to close out close games anymore. It's either they get hot and stay hot, or they get cold and get hot and then choke it away. Either way, Iowa's 6-4. They lose to USC. Iowa came into this game at number 21 on the college football playoff rankings. USC came into this game at number 18 for the second week of college football playoff rankings. Mark Gronowski for the Iowa Hawkeyes, 132 yards, 12 for 19 in terms of pass completions and attempts. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Kamari Moulton, 90 yards for 15 carries. DJ Vanomi, 4 receptions for 78 yards. Jaden Mayava over for the USC Trojans, 254 yards, 23 for 32 passes to attempts, and 1 touchdown. King Miller, 83 yards for 18 carries, and Mikel Lemon, 153 yards, 10 receptions, and 1 touchdown. Listen, the game was great. Iowa started this game looking like they were going to beat the absolute brakes off of USC. Lincoln Riley, King Miller, Jaden Mayava couldn't buy a point if they tried in terms of a touchdown. Got a little bit closer towards halftime. Iowa goes up again in the third quarter and then proverbially starts to choke it away on defense, which is very uncharacteristic of the Iowa Hawkeyes in its entirety. It's quite infuriating, but this is the makeup of the Iowa Hawkeyes as of the past 4 years or so. Frankly, I have an opinion, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for it. Ask me if I care, because I don't argue with your mama, not me. I really hope Kirk Ferentz is considering retiring. You've built the program to what it's known to be. There's not much else you can do, because at this point, the way Iowa runs things, it's not going to get us any closer to the hopes of a college national championship. The last college football championship that Iowa had was in 1956. My dad was just born. My dad was born in 1955. The Iowa Hawkeyes won the national championship in 1956. The last time the Iowa Hawkeyes smelled the CFP, before it was even called the CFP, the Jackson 5 was still doing the Icky Shuffle on stage at the Grand Ole Opry. Okay. Diana Ross and the Supremes was just getting started. Motown wasn't even a thing yet. Okay, let's just keep that perspective in mind. Hell, Hayden Fry was still was coaching alive and well. Let me just throw that out there. Kirk Ferentz is the longest tenured FBS college football coach right now as I'm speaking, y'all. Let me just rephrase that. Kirk Ferentz is the longest tenured college football coach currently right now as I'm speaking to you. He is also the most winning Big Ten college football coach at 208 wins, I believe now. He broke that milestone. He broke Woody's record this year. He was tied at 205 wins. Broke that threshold about week 4, week 3. Kirk Ferentz has done a lot for the Iowa program. He literally has built that thing up with the help of his former coach and the late, great trucker hat wearing, aviator mustache having Mr. Hayden Fry. This is 2025. In order to get more recognition, in order to get that talent, you got to be a little bit more hip when it comes to the offensive game, which has happened. Adding Tim Lester as the offensive coordinator for the Iowa Hawkeyes has been a thing. It's been a great thing. And now that we've added a Mark Gronowski, who's literally the most winningest quarterback in college football history, two national championships at D2 with South Dakota State. Mark Gronowski's 59-10. He just hit double digits loss this year. It's crazy to me. And he's a senior. And I really hope he has extra eligibility, because if he does, if he even has a year, I think he comes back to Iowa and sees how far he can take the Hawkeyes. But there's got to be a coaching change, and unfortunately for me, it's got to be Kirk Ferentz. And there's got to be a younger head in there somewhere. He's not Nick Saban, although he is revered as very much like Nick Saban. So I met the man. I went to the school. I've seen it happen. It's been great. It's been great to watch. It's just very lackluster. Just very much getting used to it. Either way, getting into some more of these games here. Another big game we're going to talk about here on MackTruck Podcast. The Oklahoma Sooners go down to Tuscaloosa, to Bryant-Denny Stadium, and hand Alabama a second loss on the season. Alabama drops this one in Tuscaloosa, 21-23. John Mateer for the Oklahoma Sooners, mind you, who has been progressively getting better every game since he's had thumb surgery on his throwing hand. John Mateer, 138 passing yards, goes 15 for 23. Xavier Robinson, 34 yards for 10 carries. Jermichael Carter, 36 yards on 3 carries for the Oklahoma Sooner offensive core. Ty Simpson, Alabama Crimson Tide, 326 yards, 28 for 42, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Daniel Hill, 2 touchdowns, 15 carries for 60 yards. And Josh Cuevas, big tight end, number 80. That kid can move, too. He's somebody to watch out for the next coming seasons, just to let y'all know. Josh Cuevas, again, 80 yards, 6 receptions, and 1 touchdown. And to kind of close out the college football platform here in terms of our recaps, Minnesota loses to Oregon 13-42. UCLA loses to Ohio State 10-48. Texas A&M squeezes one out. They were getting hosed the entire game by South Carolina in South Carolina. They ended up coming back and getting this one 31-30. The 10. Notre Dame beats Pitt in Pitt 37-15. Michigan wins another close one to the Northwestern Wildcats 24-22 at Northwestern. So college football has been nuts with this entirety of week 12. And I'm going to just throw that out there. The other thing I'm going to throw out there is the fact that my watch list for 2025 has now pretty much been shaken up for the most part. Iowa's now 6-4, lost to USC. In USC, their next game is at Kinnick Stadium this weekend versus Michigan State. Iowa State was on a bye. They are also 6-4. This week, they play Kansas at Jack Trice Stadium. Colorado is 3-7 versus Arizona State in Boulder this weekend as well. Georgia Tech, who is 9-1 versus Pitt at home. That's going to be an interesting game. You have Jeremiah Haynes and Haynes King. Haynes King, who is also one of the front runners for the Heisman Trophy race. And rightfully so. Georgia Tech is here to stay. They're very much in the ACC championship running for that game spot. I can't wait. I also can't wait until they play Georgia because I am a Yellow Jacket fan that day. Because to hell with Georgia. Okay? To hell with Georgia. Rambling wreck Georgia Tech over here. I'm going to just tell y'all that right now. And as far as the end of the MackTruck College Watch List Football Edition 2025, Vanderbilt Commodores are 8-2. They will play Kentucky Wildcats in Vandy at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. That's 2:30 Central Time for those of you in the Central Time Zone this coming Saturday. I can't wait. Listen, I just love sports so much. I really do. And I thank you guys for joining me here on the MackTruck podcast again. The studio audio edition version, whatever you want to call it, if you were joining us earlier today when we were live on the airways. Thank you so much. But this is for you individuals who don't get to catch the live versions, who don't get to catch, all the professionalism back here in the studios. I do what I want because it's my damn show. And if you don't like it, get the hell out. Hell. Either way, we're moving on into the next topic here on the MackTruck podcast. This portion of the show is brought to you by Them Patent Spirits adult beverage line. Daniel and Jen Patton's coveted line of adult beverages is now out for sale and tasting. Make sure you're hitting them up on Instagram at Them Patents, THEMPATTONS, and tell them the MackTruck sent you. They are also one of the official sponsors of the MackTruck podcast, the MackTruck show, alongside of the In My Bag apparel and customs line itself, official merchandiser and official beverage sponsor. And if you do indulge, please make sure you are indulging responsibly because that's what we do as adults. We indulge responsibly because if we don't, it can get us into a lot of trouble. So please indulge responsibly, please drink responsibly, and make sure you are getting all things In My Bag apparel and all things in that spirits through the numerous websites, search engines, or you can simply ask me and I can get you in contact with them as well. Either way, shop responsibly, drink responsibly. That's what we're here for. NFL news and notes specifically. Antonio Brown. If you watch the NFL, pay attention to the NFL, you know the NFL can be a very stressful situation for people. Depends on how one, handles said stress. Fortunately for Antonio Brown, he now faces a couple different charges. One main specifically, second-degree attempted murder for an incident back in May of this year at a celebrity boxing match. Was released this past week on bond pending trial. He has to wear an ankle monitor, which means I believe he cannot leave the state of Florida. He was extradited from Dubai, where he was arrested. He was extradited to New Jersey and then Florida, and then waived the extradition from Florida. He pled not guilty to the charge. He's currently out again on $25,000 bond, pending the trial date. He could face up to 30 years if convicted. And for those of you who know about Antonio Brown, have watched Antonio Brown, his antics, a lot of people seem to think that it has to do with CTE. I am one of those people who tend to be highly inclined in terms of that nature. However, I will say that I don't necessarily think CTE plays an entire part in this. I don't think one can blame CTE for people just snapping out. I mean, we all have seen Antonio Brown's antics just running across the Tampa Bay Buccaneers field, doing who knows what, saying who knows what online, acting out, attacking people in comments, doing crazy, weird things. Either way, Antonio Brown's got a long road ahead of him. I know that. I'm not sure what the stipulations for the ankle monitor are, but I don't necessarily think he's leaving Florida anytime soon. In further news in terms of the NFL, Aaron Rodgers is now currently out um, due to a broken non-throwing hand. Aaron Rodgers is a right-hand thrower, which means his non-throwing hand would be his left hand. Now, I'm getting mixed reports. Again, you can find all this stuff on ESPN.com, Bleacher Report, AP News, CBS Sports, really anywhere you get your sporting information, that type of thing. But fantasy football has Aaron Rodgers out/IR, but there's no official word that Aaron Rodgers is on IR. Now, if it were me, I'm obviously, if y'all know me, I don't know what a break is. It takes a lot for me to stop, and sit back. But I'll tell you this: if I have an injury on my non-throwing hand, I'm throwing the damn ball. I'm working. I'm doing what I can, pleading, begging, showing that I can protect my hand and still, do my job. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, that's what I'm clamoring for. And I've seen different reports saying that he's trying to find a way to play this week. I think it's in his best interest if he can. If I think it's in the team's best interest rather. I think they have a good thing going in Philly. I mean, you have Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, you have Sebastian Castro, you have TJ Watt, you have, the newest rendition of the Steel Curtain itself. Like, DK Metcalf. Like, yeah, come on. If AR8 can throw the ball, let him sling the pill. That's what you have an offensive line for. That's what you have those meaty mugs up front to help protect your quarterback. And the fact that he has one of the fastest releases in the NFL is nuts to me. Even at 40-something years old, 46 years old, I think he's one of the oldest people in the NFL in the best way possible. Either way, moving on into the Monday Night Football recap here on the MackTruck Podcast Studio Edition. The Vegas Raiders dropped this one in Vegas last night to a very motivated Dallas Cowboys team. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be like, oh, it's just the Raiders. The Raiders are a proverbially terrible team, all the things. But that's not necessarily true when you lose a teammate. For those of you who don't remember, just about 2 weeks ago, Dallas Cowboys lost a teammate in Marshawn Nealon, linebacker, defensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, due to suicide down in Frisco, Texas. And the Dallas Cowboys had a bye week last week. They came into the second part of the season with a vengeance. Geno Smith, 27 for 42, 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Geno Smith again on the rushing side, 14 yards for 4 carries. And Brock Bowers, 72 yards for 7 receptions. Dak Prescott for the Dallas Cowboys, 25 for 33, no interceptions, 4 touchdowns, and 268 passing yards. Javonte Williams, running the ball for the Dallas Cowboys, 93 yards, 22 carries. And George Pickens, 144 yards, 9 receptions, and 1 touchdown. Now, obviously, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. We know this. I also have no problem refuting the fact that the Dallas Cowboys have not had a great NFL start. They were 3-5-1 going into yesterday's game. They're now 4-5-1 going into this game back at AT&T Stadium in Jerry's Playpen versus their division foes and conference foes, rivals in the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts, Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship, Saquon Barkley. I would just tell you this. The number line in terms of favored points for the Eagles has dropped significantly. It went from 16 to now 3.5. Unfortunately, I think when you lose a teammate or you lose somebody close, it kind of sparks another type of motivation in you, and I think that's the exact direction the Dallas Cowboys are heading. I will also say, strangely enough, that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens in last night's game, or Monday night's game, depending on when you listen to this, were out for the first series of this game. Now, Coach Brian Schottenheimer didn't really release details as to why CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens were both out for the first series, but unfortunately for the Dallas Cowboys, it was painfully obvious. The Dallas Cowboys struggled the first series without its 2 leading receivers in George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. But boy, did they sure make up for it. George Pickens was flying around everywhere, catching balls, getting yards after catch. CeeDee Lamb doing the same thing on the other side, making up for that series that they missed and essentially putting the Dallas Cowboys back into the win column. And you love to see it. He loved to see it. Anyway, going over the rest of these scores here for the MackTruck podcast here. Bears get this one on the road at US Bank Stadium versus Minnesota Vikings, who are not having a great season, with J.J. McCarthy making his NFL debut after being hurt all of last season. Bears get to this one with Ben Johnson-led offense, with a Caleb Williams, led offense. Roma Dunze, them boys over there, 19-17, 49ers. Brock Purdy makes his comeback after a turf toe injury, beats this one up in Arizona with a Kyler Murray-less Cardinals and Jacoby Brissett, 41-22. The Chiefs lose in Mile High Stadium to a walk-off field goal by Will Lutz, 19-22. The Commanders drop one in Hard Rock Stadium to Tua T and Jalen Waddle in overtime, 13-16. The Bengals get crushed in Pittsburgh in Acrisure Stadium, 12-34. The Chargers get waxed also in Florida, 6-35. The Bucks also, there's a lot of waxings here on this list. I'm going to tell you guys right now. Bucks loses one to the Bills in MetLife Stadium, Highmark Stadium rather, 32-44. The Texans win in Tennessee, 16-13. The Panthers win a close one with now a Michael Penix-less Atlanta Falcons team, win by a field goal, 30-27. Packers win by 7 at the Giants, 27-20. Seahawks lose by 2 to the Rams at the Rams home, 19-21. The Ravens and Lamar Jackson and King Henry win this one in Cleveland in the dog pound, 23-16. Shedeur Sanders did end up making his NFL debut for 2025. Now that Dylan Gabriel, who was QB1, has a head injury, concussion. And originally, everybody knows that Joey Flacco was in that first QB1 spot. He's now a Bengal, which left Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders as QB1 and 2. I'm just go out here and say this. Dylan Gabriel is not an NFL quarterback. Not an NFL quarterback. At least not a ready one. I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders would have been a world beater, but I can guarantee you the Cleveland Browns may have a couple more wins under their belt if they stop trying to proverbially sabotage their players. And that's what I'm going to call it, because that's my opinion. That's how I fucking feel. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's how I feel. The Cleveland Browns have not set themselves up for success. I think it's going to take a couple games for Shedeur Sanders to just, get game speed under his belt now that he's QB1 with Dylan Gabriel being out. But we'll see. And the last game on this list, the Detroit Lions lose this one in Lincoln Financial Field to Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, 9-16. Now listen, y'all. We got one more thing to talk about, and then we're good for another day or two. I'll tell you that. Unfortunately, we have to talk about another death in the football world. For those of you who remember the Netflix documentary, or docuseries rather, called Last Chance U, the most recent season from 2020 with head coach John Beam of the Laney College Eagles in Oakland, California. Coach John Beam lost his life Friday morning after being shot in the head by a young gentleman of the name Cedric Irving Jr. Walked into the Laney Eagles College Fieldhouse where Coach John Beam was residing as the athletic director for the college after retiring from coaching football in 2024. As a coach, Coach John Beam started at Laney College in 2004 as a running backs coach, took over the head coaching reins in 2012, and won 2 league titles during his reign, as well as becoming one of the featured schools and coaches the Netflix series of Last Chance U Football. Cedric Irving was 27 years old, again charged with murder in the death of Coach John Beam, could face up to now 50 years in jail, 50 years to life rather, in jail if convicted. Irving also faces enhancement charges with alleging the fact that he shot and fired a personal gun, caused bodily harm and injury to a victim who was particularly vulnerable. Obviously, victim being Coach John Beam. Due to age, the vulnerability is increased, and you just never know what's going on in somebody's head. It's really unfortunate. Obviously, there's no I'm not condoning anything, but mental welfare does play a huge part in this. Other reports shown in terms of the indictment document and the evidence documents stating that Cedric Irving Jr. was found at a nearby train station holding the firearm that he used to essentially murder Coach John Beam. He was picked up and is now in custody. A family member of Cedric Irvin did state that he just gotten fired from his job that week and was having issues at home in terms of facing removal, eviction of the house, things like that. So you just never know what's going on in somebody's life. I will also add that Coach John Beam, again, won 2 league titles while he was a tenured coach for Laney College and has sent more than 20 players from Laney College to play in the NFL, a lot of whom are still very active on huge NFL rosters to this day. So I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to leave you with this, guys. You can only help those who want to be helped. And it costs nothing to check in on people. It costs nothing to say hi. It costs nothing to be nice. In fact, it's free 99 to reach out to somebody. But again, you can only help those who want to be helped. You can only help somebody grow that wants to be helped again. And we are going to take a quick moment of silence for Coach John Beam as well as the late Dallas Cowboy, Marshawn Nealon. Thank you for that. And with that, guys, that's the end of the studio show. That's what we got. 50 minutes of my purely unadulterated funky voice. Still fighting off a cold because it's cold in Michigan and I moved 8 hours further north for more winter. Well worth it though. I love my life. I love the woman of my dreams. I love my daughter. Those two keep me going and have kept me going this entire year. I wouldn't ask for anything different, to be completely honest with you. I love it. You love it. And if you don't, I'm sorry. I'll also tell you this. I'm hungry. Need to go feed my back fat. Also, snack of the week, Jersey Mike's Philly cheesesteak sub. If you remember that segment, keep that in mind because we're adding it back. That's all I got for y'all today, though. It's a brisk Tuesday here. Got to go to work tomorrow. Not excited about it, but I am excited about it because I'm still standing and upright. Okay, I'm very blessed and highly favored. I hope everybody has a great evening, day, wherever you're listening to this. We'll be back later on this week with another episode. Like I said, we're getting back into the studio versions, and I'm kind of excited for it. Either way, we out of here. In the illustrious words of Ellen DeGeneres, be kind to one another. In the illustrious words of the great Yinza himself, that is Pat McAfee, be a friend, tell a friend something nice. It might change your life. And in the illustrious words of the great Prescott Kelly and myself, stay up, stay blessed, stay tuned, and stay sporty. See you on the next one.